everybody. We're here with Vince Dooley, and we wanted to talk to Vince this morning. We want to thank Vince for inviting us into your home. It was awfully sweet of you. You have a gorgeous home here.
I'm glad that you came, and particularly glad that you brought Sturgis. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to have Sturgis and you and your family here with me.
Thank you so much. We wanted to talk about a few things this morning that a lot of people might not be aware of. And the fact that you were actually involved with Kennesaw State University before the football program even started.
Well, that's why I was invited to come. Dr. Papp, who was the president at that time, as the university was growing and getting bigger and bigger, that in order for it to really be a first-class university in the Deep South as a public institution, that football would be a thing that would be really important to the university from the standpoint of a community making it a real university where people will come rallying around a football team or rallying around a mascot like Sturgis, and the fight song of Kennesaw State, all of those things that make a special experience for students going to the university. So Dr. Papp, because of my association with the University of Georgia for 40 years, asked if I would come as a consultant. And I'm very proud of the fact that I was there 5 years and saw the transition to a football team. And then especially proud that after all these years, in the very third year that Kennesaw State started football, that they won a championship.
Unbelievable.
And to see the mascot, I mean, Sturgis has just been a tremendous addition, and I love the way he can turn his neck and look at me, which is doing that.
Now, do you remember the first time you saw Sturgis?
Well, I did, but he's twice the size now. When I saw him, that's the first time I've seen him in a good while, but he's a lot bigger. You told me that this particular breed is the biggest owl of all the different breeds of.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. And
can he get bigger?
he can actually fill out a little. The females are much larger. They're about a third larger.
Wow.
Which is hard to believe. They get up to a 6-foot wingspan,
Mm.
which is pretty crazy. So, but the first time we met, I remember we were at a press conference, and it was a signing day, I believe, and you had walked up and you had told me about a trip you took, and it's always stuck in my mind ever since you told me about that trip, and I was kind of hoping you would tell everybody
Sure.
a little bit about that.
Well, I've been fascinated with owls anyway. The fact that they can move and so fast, and the fact that they can move and not make a lot of noise, as I understand, because of the way the feathers are on the wings, and they're all good-looking animals too. But I was in the Galapagos Islands with my wife. It's one of those places that I always wanted to go because of the uniqueness of the Galapagos Islands and what they have there, the fact that Darwin was there. And so there's a lot of unusual animals there. For instance, the Galapagos, as I remember, is the only place where you could have flamingos and penguins in the same place.
Wow.
If you think about that, really
Yeah.
amazing, those two. But anyway, we were in the Galapagos Islands, and we went to this restaurant, and then I was going to the restroom, and there was a nice bar, and I kind of looked up right over the bar, over a rafter, and I saw two owls, and I was fascinated by them because they were just up there looking down at everybody, and they were just little babies. And I took a picture of it and showed it to you. Didn't know what kind they were, but found out from you that they were barn owls. And I also found out that this was the 7th generation of those owls that have come back to that same place each time. They would stay there as young birds growing up, and then when they would get mature enough, they would leave.
And this was inside the pub.
Inside
in
the
building.
pub, yeah. But the pub
Wow.
was such that they could fly and go right on out because it was an open pub, particularly at the Gallipolis, because of the weather. It wasn't an enclosed place. So as I understand it from the guy that's been there, that there's been 7 generations of those owls that would leave and then come back and have their little children. Those little children will be there. Then they would eventually leave and come back and have more children.
Wow.
So it was a fascinating story. So I've always been fascinated by owls, and I can't think of a better mascot. Of course, I have to say that, and also say that the bulldog is a great mascot.
That's
too,
right.
because I've grown up with them, and if you look around this room, I've got a lot of bulldogs. So bulldogs and owls are my favorite.
And
mascot.
we were telling Vince too when we first came, our family, we have 3 bulldogs at home too.
Yeah,
And we
right.
love them. I mean, they're part of our family as well. So it's pretty cool. And so in working with the athletics department, did you do some work with Vaughn Williams too?
Oh yeah,
Was he-
yeah. Vaughn and I worked very, very close together, and Brian Bohannon. The decision was made to hire Brian, which was a great hire.
Yes.
Brian played football here at Georgia, but he also coached for Georgia Tech, and he was the offensive coordinator there. He was at Georgia Southern, and so he had a great background on the state of Georgia. And the state of Georgia is rich with prospects, college prospects, and particularly in the Kennesaw area. So he and his staff have just done a terrific job of recruiting and really putting Kennesaw State on the map in a hurry. And to win the championship in the 3rd year is an example of that. A terrific job by Brian Bohannon and his staff, but also a rich area of football recruits and an institution that's off and running and with a great future. The growth of that institution has just been absolutely amazing to me.
Yeah, it is amazing.
And then to have those things that give you that special pride, the fight song, the colors, and a great mascot.
Well, thank you so much. Now we want to touch on a point too. You've done so many things in your life, from your gardening that you love to do, to writing books, an author, and we wanted to touch on your new book that you actually finished and released last year, 2017. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, one of the great things I've said about living around a university is that if you got a curiosity about anything, you can satisfy it because there's an expert on everything at a university. And I have always enjoyed auditing courses in history. I got a master's degree in history, and that was the reason of my interest in the Civil War and this latest book. But the interest in gardening is an example that I had no background on gardening, but I was always curious about trees and plants. And so I thought I would take one course and I would satisfy it, but one course led to another and I got bit by the bug, and when you get bit by the bug, there's no cure for the infection. So I'm still at it. I tell people I'm an inspiration for anybody who wants to be a gardener late in life, particularly to write a book about something they don't really know anything about. But I've got kind of a mini botanical garden, and it's my golf. I don't play golf, but I really enjoy going out into the garden, and because it's good for the body, it's good for the mind, and it's good for the soul.
Well, I tell you, walking in here today, it's amazing, your yard out there. It's
Well,
gorgeous.
I got a large variety of plants because my 2 mentors that I took classes under are still here in Athens, and I see them a lot, particularly Dr. Michael Durr, and I've been to nursery shows. In fact, I've been to England twice, to Belgium once, and I'm going to Germany this year in January on another event over there, a huge nursery show. So it's something it's continued my interest, and it's, as I mentioned, it's good for the mind. But I also enjoy doing something with history, and I was always interested in the Civil War, and particularly so because of the local interest, because this particular fellow that we wrote about was a colonel in Athens. He went to the University of Georgia. He was a first honor graduate, so good they brought him back as a teacher. And the name of it is the Legion's Fighting Bulldog. And the reason that the Bulldog got into it is because the person that wrote so many things about him, because he was loved by his troops, and he was tenacious. And the fellow that had said this about him, that he had three great attributes: a commanding presence. I mean, he looked like an officer. Superb generalship, great leader. He was always out front. And the courage of a bulldog. So when they said that, that's how I got. So it's called the Legion's Fighting Bulldog. And it's a lot of correspondence between he and his wife. So, and a guy named Steve Penley did the cover, who is the very talented artist, as you know, from Georgia.
Well,
how's Sturgis doing over there?
He's doing good. He's going through a molt right now, so he's missing a couple feathers on his head. But normally he's got a few more up there on top.
He's a good-looking fellow.
So, thank you. Well, I wanted to thank you so much for sitting down and taking the time. I know you were just abroad recently and just got back. So
I enjoy traveling, and I enjoy history, and I enjoyed my experience at Kennesaw State because I was a part of a program from the start, the birth of it. The University of Georgia has been playing since 1892, so to go into a place and to be a part of it, and to get to know all the people that really are invested, the faculty, of course, and also the athletic department, the coaches, and the people of the foundation that I got to know. So I really accumulated a lot of great friends, and I have a special interest up there, and I keep in touch with Coach Bohannon, and just have the highest respect for him and what he's done. So it's great to be able to see Sturgis again. I've had the occasion to see him before on some Kennesaw State meetings, and I look forward to seeing you again, Sturgis.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. We're going to see if we can get some pictures with Vince holding Sturgis here in a couple minutes. So thank you, everybody.
Well, this ball I'm particularly proud of because this was the first football game. And so I was presented this game ball, which is one of many, but it was the first win of Kennesaw State over East Tennessee State.
Wow.
And so I'm very proud of that, very Kennesaw State ball.